Welcome to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast, brought to you by www.legaladviceinparadise.com. Even in one of the most beautiful places in the world, life can be litigious. On this podcast, the best and brightest legal minds gather to help you navigate your way through every legal question you may face. This program will help you know your rights, know what steps to take, and help you find the best legal representation, all in simple, easy to understand terms. And now, here's your host, Justine Gronwald.
Aloha everyone, and here's part 2 of the 2-part series with DUI attorney Paul Cunney. And before we start, I wanted to invite you, if you aren't already, join our free Agent of Change membership. And it's simple to join. Just text or call your name and your email to area code 808-670-3400, and make sure you text back agree to receive your messages. And when you do, you will automatically be sent tips on how to hire an attorney. Now let's dig into part 2 of our interview with DUI attorney Paul Cunney. Well, let's move on to this one. We're going to go into the penalties. Okay. So say someone got caught driving. They end up in this seat right here in front of your office. And when I visited you to be on the show, you gave me this penalties. And there's the first offense, the second offense, and the third offense. And the first offense is no conviction within the past 5 years. Then you would have to go through this 14-hour minimum rehab.
Right, yeah.
Substance abuse rehab program. And then the 1-year revocation and...
Right.
Yeah.
And you need to have to do an alcohol assessment. So if it's a first offense, and let's say you had a DUI 6 or 7 years ago, and you cleaned it all up, you did what you were supposed to do, you got relicensed, so you're legal now. Now you pick up another DUI. Okay. If 5 years have gone by from the first one,
that's what it says here, within 5 years.
Yeah. So if it's within 5 years, then it's a second offense.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's after.
So in other words, let's say you got arrested in the year 2005, and here we are in 2014. Now there's a DUI out there, and they might look at it, and they'll know about it. The courts will know about it, but you'll still be treated as a first-time offender because 5 years have gone by from 2005. That thing should have been off your record somewhere in 2010 or 11. So now you get one in 2014. This one now becomes a new first-time offense. But the problem is you got one from 05, now you got one from 14. You get one more, then you got 3 in 10 years.
3 strikes, you're out.
Yeah, and 3 convictions can get you what they call a habitual DUI. If you have 3 DUIs and then you pick up a 4th one, you're looking at what they call habitual DUI, which is a felony, punishable by 5 years in jail. And the judges are making people serve jail on that. So sometimes you'll serve 1 year, and the judge will suspend the rest of the sentence, put you on probation, keep your nose clean for 4 years. The case will go off your record, so to speak. So if you let's go back to the first offender, because most people are first offenders.
Right. That's
right.
Unfortunate, but that's good. Most of them are.
Right.
Not repeat.
Right, exactly. So the first offenders, they have to lose their license. If they're found guilty, they'll lose their license for 1 year. Number 2, they're going to have to go across the street over to American Savings Bank, the 5th floor. That's called the Division of Driver Education. And they will have a list of about 10 or 15 people who are what they call certified substance abuse assessors. Okay, not people in their office or on the outside. You have to pick a name, you have to call that person, you pay $55, $60, sometimes $65. The person will give you a receipt, and you go and you meet with that alcohol assessor, and they determine whether you have a drinking problem or not. It's
wow.
mostly a self-reporting thing, but they will also know if you had one before too. So let's say you had a DUI 6 years ago, and then now you go. So it's a little closer in time. The one assessor that I use a lot for my clients, I know he'll put you in his Saturday morning class, and you'll have to go to 4 sessions there, and it costs you about $150 to go to it. Yeah. So
everything costs money because I see all these different fees here.
Yeah. Right. So let's just continue along this. So if you lose your license for 1 year, then you go for the alcohol assessment, and whatever the alcohol assessor says, you have to do. So if there's some alcohol assessor makes a determination, they think you've got more of a drinking problem, they could order you to do 30 AA meetings in 30 days.
Wow. Consecutive.
Mandatory. One a day. And if you don't do it, you don't get relicensed. Or they could say, maybe do 10 AA meetings in a period of 30 days. Or some will say, I want you to go into an outpatient program.
Wow.
I mean, if you got a blow, an alcohol level, and your blow is like 2.8, 2.9.
And what's the minimum now?
Well, the minimum is 0.8.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to be 0.8 or above to be found guilty. There's another little area there between 0.5 and 0.8. If there's an accident, you can look. So if some person blows an 0.6 or an 0.7, they'll say, hey, I'm not under the influence. I'm below the legal limit. But when there's an accident involved, it's called the gray area between 0.5 and 0.8. And even though you might win at the administrative side because you didn't get to that 0.8, the prosecutors can use it against you on the criminal side, saying, Judge, this person was more impaired than just the alcohol, that just because they didn't blow a .08, look at the accident here, what happened, that. And other indicia, maybe slurred speech or stumbling or confused, things like that, Yeah. So you have to do the classes. The classes used to be 3 half days. Now it's 2 7-hour days. Those are again given on the 5th floor of the American Savings Bank building
7
across the
hours,
street.
huh?
7 hours, and you go there with a counselor. A counselor is one of the people that work at driver's education, and they'll show you some films. They'll have they'll lecture about what alcohol does on the human body and how the body metabolizes alcohol.
How it impairs all your
exactly
your
right, exactly,
and,
yeah. And it's educational, and
that's good.
I think a lot of people get a lot out of it.
That's good.
Yeah. So that's mandatory. Then there are mandatory costs, for the driver's education, and you have to pay something for victim compensation fund, and you
30?
have the neurotrauma.
25 for
right?
that.
Yeah, all these little small things.
Driver's ed.
Right.
$7.
Right.
And drug demand reduction assessment, $250.
Yeah. As far as the $250 drug demand assessment, the judge usually fines you $50 and suspends the other $200. But if you don't do the alcohol assessment and do the treatment, then the judge can come back and whack you for the other $200.
That's a lot of money.
It is.
And then on top of that, one or more of the following
fines,
$150 to $1,000 fine.
Right.
On top of 72 hours of community service.
Right.
48 hours to 5 days imprisonment.
Right. So it's pretty stiff.
It's pretty stiff. Are you listening out there? Okay.
So what the judge does for first offenders, he normally doesn't give jail. I tell my clients that chances of you getting jail are very, very slim on a first offense. And you probably won't be picking up papers in Waikiki or, doing community service. What the judge does, they whack you in the fine. There's usually $500 posted on the case. The prosecutors will argue, well, Judge, the fine in this case should be higher because the alcohol level. They kind of use the alcohol level as a barometer for what the fine should be. So if let's say your alcohol level is a 1.5, they'll tell the judge should $500, $600 plus all those other costs. So the cheapest you can get out of a DUI is about $362. So some of those people actually get a little bit of money back. Very rarely. Kind of the uniformly or arbitrarily, the judges kind of got together and raised the minimum fine to $250. So, but I argue to the judge when it gets to a first offender, and if that person has gone out and done what the legislature wanted them to do, and that is put that ignition interlock in your car so you can continue to drive for the entire year, I say, Judge, that person's laying out over $1,000 because it cost $85 to install, $89 a month to maintain.
Oh, so, and it's a minimum of a year.
Yeah, you have to sign a 12-month lease.
So it's $85 a month.
Right. So
and then it's $175 just to install it.
Well, but that includes first month too.
Oh, okay.
So if you add up everything, it comes very close to about $950. So I tell the judge, it's $1,000.
That's $1,000 just for that, not including all this other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I say, Judge, the person's done. They haven't put the government through a trial. They've taken responsibility. They've spent this money that they didn't have to do to put this ignition interlock in their car. Give them a break, you know, like that. And the judge does. Yeah. So in other words,
and hopefully it's a huge wake-up call.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But you go, well, they should realize for that whole year, every time they start their car, it should remind them to the time that they started it and got a DUI in a sense.
And now, for those who didn't listen, second offense.
Second offense. Yeah, that's.
Ooh, it's getting stiffer.
That's either like 240 hours of community service.
Wow.
Or jail. 5 days jail. And I tell a lot of people, hey, you're better off doing the 5 days jail. They go, why? I don't want to go to jail. I says 240 hours of community service. You are going to be doing, and you do it like increments of like 4 hours here, 5 hours.
That's a long
It's
time.
like basically giving up a Saturday or Sunday for an entire year. You know, so just go in and get it over with. They don't put the person in with general population. First of all, you're not going to Halava prison up in the valley.
Where do you go?
You're going to go to OCCC.
Ooh.
Down on Dillingham. Okay. So, and they put you in what they call the annex, which is separate from the main building. Okay. There's a couple wooden sheds that are actually, they look wooden, but they're concrete inside. And, you go in there on a Thursday afternoon and get out on a Monday. So you do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. You do 5 days, you know. Sometimes sometimes you get lucky. They're so overcrowded out there that maybe after 3 days they might cut you loose. But 5 days there, it's done with, you know. And a lot of people have gone in there and they said, yeah, you were right. I didn't want to lose a Saturday. You know, I usually have to be with my kids, or I coach soccer, or I coach baseball, you know, so.
But hopefully that's another wake-up call.
Yeah, that's a second offender now.
Yeah.
And what Judge David Lowe, who's the kind of the DUI judge here in Honolulu, he started up. You know, we've always had a drug court, and we've had a veterans court, we've had a mentally ill court. Now we have a DUI court, and I actually have 3 clients that are in there right now. Those are individuals that have second and third DUIs.
Habitual.
Well, no, habitual becomes the fourth DUI.
Oh.
4 and 10 years is habitual. But if someone who gets 2 convictions, picks up a third, or gets the second one, and kind of out of control, you know, that need some help.
Right.
And they've graduated a couple people already, and you basically meet every, I think it's about once a month. Sometimes it's twice a month, but it's every Thursday. You show up at 9 o'clock. There'll be probably 15 or 20 people in the class, and the judge calls you up and questions you, you know, how you doing? Is your life any better? When was the last time you drank? And they'll test them, you know, randomly to see if they're still drinking.
Oh, that's what it's about. I'm going to be interviewing Duke Iona. He was with the drug court, so it's kind of similar. Like they create these things for people to go to as part of their rehabilitation.
Right.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah.
And he had the drug court. Now the drug court's run by Steve Arm. Steve Arm, I was over there watching him the other day, and he is. I've known Steve probably 25, 30 years ever since I've been in town. He was a prosecutor, and then he went over to the U.S. Attorney's office, and then he became the U.S. Attorney. And then he came back out and got a judgeship, and he's taken over the the drug court, and he's doing a wonderful job.
That's good to
hear. He's really found his
Mm-hmm.
niche. I really give him a lot of credit.
That's great.
Yeah, because I think if you're going to be a judge, I always thought if I was a judge, I'd want to be dealing with juveniles, try to help turn their lives around and stuff like that.
Early on.
Huh?
Early on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Steve's doing over there now.
That's
with these and I had a client that had 8 months, clean and sober, 8 months. And he got a job. He's doing well, and then all of a sudden he runs into one of his buddies on the street, and he takes a hit of the pipe.
Yeah, it's that association again.
Right. Yeah. Well, they tell you in AA or NA, people, places, and things. You've got to change. The people you're hanging around, the places where you go, and things you were doing. You change those when you want to make changes in your life.
Yeah.
And Judge Lowe's doing that with the DUI
That's
court.
good.
Very similar to what they did with in fact, the Judge Marsha Waldorf, she's retired now, but she's the one who had the mental health court. And then Iona had the drug court.
Right.
But that's Stephen Arms running that right now.
Yeah.
And it's really
Maybe I should
very
have
successful.
Maybe we should have him here.
Yes.
And talk to him. But for the second offense, so then now they're doing the DUI court. Is that what it's called?
Not necessarily. You don't. You, that's all voluntarily. You don't have to go into
okay.
that. No,
Okay.
It's optional to go in there.
Okay.
But I identified 2 of my clients, people that I knew there. I knew the mom on one case. I knew the other one's brother, and I could see that they needed this. I just thought, I recommended it to them, and just thought it would change their lives, and it really has. So
that's good.
Yeah. So it's not for everybody, but it's for someone who really wants to make some changes. And plus there were a couple of charges out there that were, if we went into the program and if they successfully completed, maybe some of those underlying charges, which are serious, might get dismissed for it's kind of dangling a carrot, You want this one to go into that DUI court and put your heart and soul into it.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll make a change in their lives.
That's good.
And I've already seen.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I've seen that with the third fellow. I don't know that well because one of my associates is handling his. But the 2 that I'm familiar with, I've seen. Well, physically, they look 5 years younger to begin with.
Wow.
And one of the guys, was working, doing banquets and bartending, and he got out of it. He says, I can't be around that. And so now he's selling surfboards. And he told the judge the other day, he says, that's always been my lifetime passion.
Wow.
So he says, I'm doing what I want to do, And I compliment them. They lost weight, they look younger, they just have a better attitude, they don't come in grouchy, grumbling, and stuff like that. So
wow, that's
good changes.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. So and then as far as community service now, we talked about
the
that.
Community service, that's the one, 240
yeah.
hours. Yeah, that's why that takes a long time to do it, and they try to have you do it in 6 months, but judges realize you need a whole year to do it.
Yeah, especially if it's only 4 minutes.
And then
4 hours.
And then they got families. That's why again I stress. I said, go in and do the 5 days. Get it over with. You want to be hanging this thing out for a whole year, because then something will crop up. Then they have to go in and get re-referred to the judge to have it time extended. So then maybe it might be a year and a half before they complete that, So.
And so now let's get into the third offense.
Yeah, well, third offense, you got mandatory jail.
Mandatory,
yeah, mandatory 10
5
days jail.
5 years or 2 prior convictions. This is what we're talking about as far as the third offense.
Third offense, yep.
And you got 2-year revocation of license.
Right.
2 whole years.
Right.
And the fees are all the same.
No, the fees go up. I think the fees go up to $1,500.
Okay, I have here $500 to $2,500 in fines. This part here.
Yeah, no, for the third offense, you lose your license for 2 years. So the first offense is 1 year. Second offense is 18 months. Third offense, it's 2 years. So just
That's a long time.
Yeah, it is. It's a long time. And you're going to do a minimum of 10 days to 30 days jail. Right.
Yeah.
And then once you get the third conviction, then you open yourself up to the felony DUI, the habitual DUI. If you have 3 convictions in a 10-year period. Yeah. and be surprised. There's guys out there that get them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other people out there that had them 15 to 20 years ago. The legislature was nice enough to say that if they put the ignition interlock in their car now and they drive on it for 2 years and there's no problems, they'll let them apply for a license. So some of those old timers out there that might have got a habitual DUI back, in the early 90s, when they revoked them for life. It was a life revocation.
Wow.
When that case went up to the Hawaii Supreme Court, and they came back and said life is life.
Yeah.
So now the legislature is saying, well, life is, for someone who's like 30 years old, life is kind of tough if they're going to live another 50 years. So they've said, if you can demonstrate that you haven't driven and you've abided by the law, and if you put the ignition interlock in your car for 2 years and you don't have any problems with it, then you can go and apply for a license again. So they've softened that up, for people who got them, 20, 30 years ago.
So now we know what the penalties are. So now someone sitting in your chair, what would you like them to bring with them when they first sit with you?
Well, when they come in, they bring in their temporary permit to drive. Okay.
Because that'll be issued to them right away.
That should be given to them by the police officer the night he bails out. When he bails out, he'll get that. Or if he stays overnight and can't make bail, he'll get it from the sheriffs when he's bailed, when released in the morning.
Well, let me ask you this. As far as bail, what is that typically set at?
Bail, first offense is $500.
So somebody's got to come with $500 cash to get you out.
Right.
Wow.
Now, some police officers are pretty cool that if you do have your wallet, and it's like in Kailua, there's an ATM right across the street at the 7-Eleven. They'll walk you over there. They won't let you walk over on your own. They'll escort you across the street.
And you just take that right out.
You get the $500 out, right? And then you put the $500 and you bail out, okay? Now, but some people, they don't take a breath test at the station. They refuse. They just said, I don't like the way I was arrested, the way I was stopped.
Now, do you advise that to refuse?
It really depends. I think for people who cannot afford a criminal conviction. Now, some people, if they're like a airline pilot, if they're a nurse, if they're a doctor, people who have to report. Lawyers have to report DUIs on their registration form for renewal. People who might have high security clearance in the military. Those type of people, I think, really need to think about taking it. But every case is different.
Right.
Some people come in here and they'll tell you, I only had 2 beers, but I was told the machine didn't work. And I'm going, well, wait a minute now. If you really only had 2 beers, you should have blown in the machine. You wouldn't even be talking to me.
Right.
Because if it's below 08, they just give you your license back and out the door you go. So a lot of people, that's the familiar battle cry or the song they
hear
sing
that, people?
is, oh yeah, 2 beers. I had 2 beers. Only two. Like that. Or some people say, I only had 2 glasses of wine, and then the question is, well, how big were the glasses?
How big were the glasses?
Yeah,
right.
So, it all depends. I think if you refuse, you're setting yourself up, though, on the administrative side to lose your license for 2 years.
Wow.
Not with the judge, but with the revocation office. It doubles, okay? Now, if you go down there with a client, it's his first offense, you can argue to the hearings officer, my client's never been in this situation before. They were nervous. The language that the officer reads there's a lot of legalese in there, and it's hard to understand. And a lot of people are upset at themselves.
Right.
They're thinking, oh my God, I'm just going to lose my job.
Right,
What's my wife going to say?
That's the first thing that goes through their minds.
Yeah, exactly. Everything flashes. So a lot of people probably don't think, and yet the problem is you don't have an opportunity to consult with an attorney when you're at the police station.
Right,
That stage of the proceedings, you cannot talk to an attorney. So some people think, well, if I don't blow in the machine, they can't find me guilty. Well, that's probably true, but they can take your license for double down at the revocation office. But most of the hearings officer knows that there's probably some extenuating circumstances, and they'll usually give you the benefit of the doubt and maybe reduce it from 2 years down to 1 year. But that means 1 year, you can lose your license for a year down there, or you can lose it for a year with the judge. It's like a double whammy. I said, they're coming at you 2 ways.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to win both the revocation side, the civil side, and the criminal side with the courthouse. You know, I mean, I can't talk about statistics, but you know, we do very well. Okay, get a lot of licenses back at the revocation office. Be honest with you, but. Just because you get your license back at the revocation office doesn't mean you're going to win at the criminal side, because they're still going to be waiting for you.
There's
over
that
there.
two-prong.
Yeah, well, a police officer can't be in both places.
Yeah.
So sometimes if he's subpoenaed to go to the court, and he gets subpoenaed to come to the hearing, he kind of has to go to court because it has a little higher priority. So you might get the benefit of that because he can't be in 2 places at once.
Okay.
But I think the cardinal rule is to take the test.
Yeah.
It really is.
You hear that, people?
Take the test. Because, you know, first of all, if you do take the test, you can bail out right away. You know, what some people play around down there, they'll say, well, I think I want a blood test, and, you know, the officer will drive them all the way to town, and they'll say, oh, the needle looks so big. I don't want a needle.
Oh, my.
Take me back to Cunney. I'll blow in the machine, you know. Well, they'll take them back, but maybe they'll say, hey, you're playing games.
Right.
You know, you're not going to take a test now. So, yeah, it all depends. Some people act up. Some guys want to go after the officers. Hey, take that badge off. Put that gun down. You and me outside.
Oh, no, not a good idea.
No. Some people, those are the ones that are really under the influence because they're not thinking straight. They become argumentative, belligerent, you know, and the police officers don't deserve that, and they don't like it. Okay, like that. So, and then there's other ones that do get feisty, and you know, especially if not only alcohol, if they've got like ice in them, if they got drugs. Police officer will tell me it takes 3 officers to take a guy down, physically get him down on the ground and handcuff him if they're on ice.
Right.
Yeah, so that's bad too. So
that's bad.
So the police they take a lot of abuse. But then again, a lot of people are respectful and they realize, hey, I made a mistake, you know.
That's good.
You know, and I'll take my punishment and take my responsibility and turn a negative into a positive.
That's good. Yeah. So they sit here. They give you their temporary.
They give me. I tell them to bring in their temporary permit and also bring in their bail slip.
Bail slip.
Because when they come in with a bail slip, I'll know what their court date is.
Okay.
It's very important to make sure that someone shows up and preserves their bail. Because if let's say you got arrested today is what, the 27th of May, your court date is usually a month later, so let's say June 27th. And the guy just forgets to go, okay? And, well, he's gonna lose his $500 bail, and the judge is gonna then issue a bench warrant for him to be arrested, and then the new bail will be like $1,000 or $1,500.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's important to make an appearance. So if a client comes in here, I says, bring your temporary permit to drive. Number 2, I want to make sure that you are legal to drive. Now, some people can't find their licenses when they get arrested. They get flustered, okay? And they can't find their insurance card. So some people will come in here and they'll say, well, you know, I had a license, but the officer checked off, this is not a temporary permit. No license was surrendered. So those people, I'll tell them to give me their license. I will take it down to the revocation office and have the temporary permit issued, reflecting that they do, in fact, have licenses. Because there's some question, if they get caught driving a week after they're arrested and the temporary permit says you don't have a license, the person will say, well, I really do have a license. Well, you should have given it to the officer that night. So you want to correct it right away. If you want to make sure that if a person didn't get a temporary permit because the license was in another pocketbook or it was in the glove box and she forgot to give it to him, then turn it in, bring it in to me, and I will make her legal on the road right from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. So that's 2 items that they bring to you. Is there anything else?
They should bring their insurance card.
Insurance?
Right, because a lot of times that's another one. The officers will say, I never saw an insurance card. And Usually when the officer approaches, he says, I want driver's license, insurance card, and registration. Now, a person, again, gets so flustered, or they could be driving their husband's car, or they could be driving their brother's car. So maybe they'll have their license, but they won't have their insurance and registration. So the officer will give them a citation. And if you don't have insurance and you come to court, it's a $500 fine and a 90-day loss of license. So bring in the insurance card. I've got it in the file. So if I walk in at the person's original arraignment for charge, and I'll see, oh, they're charging her DUI, but they're also charging her with no-fault insurance, I'll show it to the prosecutor and get it dismissed. You want to get that off the calendar, because I don't like the judge to see that. Every time we come to court, the judge will see a DUI, and then they'll see, oh, no insurance. If you have insurance, get rid of it. And so in the judge's mind, he's not thinking that you're a bad person. He probably already thinks that, wow, got a DUI at a young age, or, you know, and you don't have insurance either. So, you know, get rid of that, some of that peripheral stuff, and clean it up a little bit right from the beginning.
Now, do you provide from your website forms to pre-fill, or you just want them to bring those 3 items? Are there other things they should be prepared with?
Yeah, on my website, you know, I have them maybe fill out a statement, but, you know, a lot of people, they call up and they want to talk about the case over the phone.
Do you do that?
Not really. I mean, I will talk to them and encourage them to give me some facts. I mean, they'll start talking. I says, please, let me just ask you a series of 10 questions, and right from that, I'll know it. Like, okay, what time of night you get arrested? Was there?
Okay, let's go over that really quick.
Well, okay, I'll say to them, like, well, okay, is this your first offense? Yes. Where did you get arrested? Kailua. Was there an accident? No. Okay. Was anybody else with you? Any witnesses? Yes. Did you have a driver's license that night? Yes. Did you give it to the officer? Yes. Did you get a temporary permit? I don't know what that is. Well, did you get 4 pages that are stapled together? In the top it says Notice of Administrative Revocation. They'll look and say, oh yeah, I got it right here. I says, okay. I don't know. I don't know whether I can drive or not. I said, well, go about 2/3 the way down the page, and on the left-hand side, there's 2 little small boxes. One will be checked. This is a temporary permit. And right below it says, your license has been sent to ADLRO, Administrative Driver's License Revocation Office. On the right-hand side of that page, about the same level, there's another little box that says, this is not a temporary permit because no license was surrendered, or license was expired, or license was revoked, that type of thing. So I said, that's important to look at. Make sure you look at that to see if you've got a license. Because then some people, like they say, well, it's checked off, I don't have a permit. And I says, well, you didn't give the license to the judge? Well, to the police officer? Well, I couldn't find it right away. Okay, I said, well, then technically you shouldn't drive. You should get in here, have someone bring you here, bring your plastic license, I'll turn it in. So questions like that. I just, you know, things like, do you have insurance? But some of those responses are, well, no, this is not my first offense. Okay, my next question would be, well, how long ago was the first one? Well, I don't know, about 3 or 4 years ago. Could it be more than 5? And I said, what's your bail? $1,000. Okay, well, that means that they saw in the computer another DUI. They don't specify, because if you had a DUI 15 years ago, it will still show a DUI in there in your computer. So that's why your bail will be jacked from $500 to $1,000. So just the preliminary questions. I just really want to know, and they'll say, well, what do you charge? I said, you know what? I says, be honest with you, I don't know what I have to do for you.
That's a good question. I was going to ask you that, but you just answered that.
So
it's each individual
every case is
different.
You know, exactly. I mean, you know, some cases where, you know, a person is sideswiped a car, you know, a parked car on the Alawai, and they admit to me that they blew like a 2-2 in the breath machine. I'll say, you know, this is not winning this case. I mean, Harry Houdini couldn't get you out of this trouble, you know.
That's a good line.
Johnny Cochran's not around anymore, you know, like that. I says, this is damage control. I said, you know, I said, first of all, I said, you know, you got to, you know, come to grips with the fact that, you know, your alcohol level is sky high. And I said, you know, now you might have an SR-22 because Normally you wouldn't have it, but if there's damage over $3,000, it could kick in an SR-22. And I said, you better come in and we better talk about this. Well, what are you going to charge? I says, let me tell you this. I said, I've been doing it for 40 years. I'm not going to get rich off of you, okay? I don't want your good money if I can't do anything for you. I said, but I would probably advise you, let's go in, hat in hand, humble pie, and tell the judge, geez, I made a mistake, judge. And, why put the government through a trial on something like this? I think you're better off going in and taking responsibility.
That's a good point.
Put that ignition interlock in your car, okay, and get in and get your classes going. Because I think if you come in like that, even with a high reading and an accident, I think I can convince the judge to, give you the lowest fine possible because you're putting that ignition interlock. And that's what it's all about. The legislature wanted that for public safety. So as long as you're doing what the legislature asks you to do, I think that's you'll be rewarded for it. So as far as just giving a price, I says, listen, I'm in the ballpark. I said if you want the cheapest lawyer, keep asking. You can call around, but it says, do you really want the cheapest lawyer? Maybe he's no good. I said, I think you ought to. I think word of mouth is important. You know. And I said, you might be getting something in the mail from my office. I said, I've been doing this 40 years. I said, knock on wood, I've never been disciplined by the ODC, Office of Disciplinary Counsel, which is and I've represented over 10,000 people. I don't think anybody. My practice is as big
How
as
many people?
Over 10,000.
Wow.
Over the years, I really have. And I don't stop and think about it, but just on sheer numbers every week, people coming in. But I said, I'm going to treat you fairly, okay? And but you're going to get a brochure from me, and you're going to see that I've been working hard for a long time. I got 2 lawyers. They're both former prosecutors. Dean went to Mililani High School, UH Law School.
Local boy.
Yeah, and the other boy went to Punahou and went to Berkeley, and they're both excellent lawyers. Okay, they're both fighters. But there's times to fight, and there's times to,
the humble pie.
Yeah, roll over and say, I made a mistake. Take responsibility. And that's why, like I said earlier, when I go in to try a case, I like the judge to think, well, Paul's in here trying this case because he thinks he's got a meritorious claim. I'm not in there to waste the prosecutor's time, the judge's time, my client's time, or my time. I mean, if it's a bad case, I'm going to try to make a deal. Okay? So that's what it comes down to. So I've always prided myself on being fair to the clients, and whatever it takes. Some cases require more work because they're winnable. Hey, if a guy comes in here and he's blown like a .084 with a margin of error, he's below the legal limit. Those are the cases where I tell them, hey, if I dot my I's and cross my T's, I'm going to win this case. I can win this case. So every case is different, and I just don't think. And I said, I think number 2. I says you should want to meet the lawyer that's going to represent you.
Exactly.
You shouldn't just do a phone survey and see what people are charging.
Yeah, that's the theme of. So far, I've interviewed a handful of attorneys now, and the recommendation is yes, call around, but mostly you need to see if the relationship is good.
Right.
If you are going to clash, then you might as well, not do it.
No.
Yeah.
I've had some of those.
Yeah.
I mean, there's sometimes I've said, well, I kind of knew that client was going to be.
See, you got to listen to your gut.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah. So I've made mistakes in taking clients, and and I would hope that most of the clients are happy with my representation.
Well, being around for 40 years, and you know what? I thank you so much, Paul, because I don't think, a lot of people are well-intentioned people, but we're fallen and we make mistakes. So this is a good way to let people know what the consequences are, because you've made it very clear. I mean, we've just been really thorough. And however, if they find themselves in that situation, then this is what they got to go through. Right. This is what's ahead of them. And you've been so detailed. I really appreciate that.
The DUI is expensive once you get one, though. There's some different little layers of fines and
that's what I've been
ignition interlock, attorney's fees.
SR-22.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to drag my client to court 4 or 5 times when I know in the end the state's probably going to get all their witnesses together, and if they do, they've got a case, and I'm going to just have to cave in. Maybe better off going in and just taking the responsibility from the beginning. It's like that ad on TV with the guys going, oh yeah, you know, I lost my girlfriend because I got a DUI, you know, and now I don't have a car because the insurance is so high, you know. It goes on and on and on. But it's the truth.
It's real.
Yeah, DUI, and that's why it's very important to get, if it's not me, there are some other attorneys in town that are qualified to handle these cases, and yeah, go meet with the lawyer, feel comfortable with the lawyer, okay? Because I want to feel comfortable with them. I want them to see my operation, the lawyers that work for me, my secretaries, and what my procedures are, you know? So it's and how I handle cases. Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much, Paul, and we're going to cut this in two because we've had I didn't want to cut you off. So what I'm going to do is make this 2 episodes. Okay. So you're gonna be like a recurring automatic.
I don't have to change tie?
No.
Okay.
But thank you so much,
You're
Paul.
very welcome.
I mean, I love that you are open, and so far a lot of the attorneys have been. I think a lot of the general public just don't know what it's like to be an attorney, and yet, you know, attorneys get a bad rap. But when you really look at it, it encompasses all of our, you know, parts of our lives that we will need one.
There's a lot of attorney jokes, but I tell you,
I know.
When they get arrested, it's like, oh, can you help me?
Well, you know, I interviewed Jim Hochberg, and he sat with Sam Slom, and they were talking, you know, on an issue, and even Sam said, you know, I don't like attorneys, but you know what? When I need one, he's got to get one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's the whole idea. But anyway, thank you so
much. Very welcome. Very welcome.
And we'll be so grateful that you can come back on other issues. You know, because you cover more than just DUI. Yeah,
you know, I was thinking the other day, I got called in a lot to comment on the Dee Trial.
Oh,
that was coming up, you know.
Yeah, and there's a lot of commentary on that.
One of the stations in town had me come on about 10 minutes to 7 in the morning for about 3 weeks, and it's an interesting case. So, I'll be glad to go on if you have some other topics you want to talk about.
All right, so let's say goodbye to everybody in the video world, and then aloha.
Remember, it's one or the other. Either you drink or drive. You can't do both.
Yes, listen to him. Okay. All right.
But if you do get caught, give me a call.
Okay. Aloha.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast. For more information, visit www.legaladviceinparadise.com.